You won't believe that right at the bottom of the iconic Mount Fuji is one of Japan's best thrill parks. Located just an hour and a half out of Tokyo, this park has an almost hour-long scare maze, a surprisingly great Thomas the Tank Engine ride, and is filled to the brim with some insane, record-breaking roller coasters. One of which was so ambitious that it sent the company that designed it bankrupt. This is Ijinaika, and it may just be one of the most insane roller coasters I've ever done. I'm not joking when I say that people were doing stretches before riding it as if they were about to do a marathon. It throws you around in ways that you can't predict because it's nothing like your typical roller coaster. The ride type is a fourth dimension coaster, one so visionary it famously sent Aerodynamics, one of the most iconic coaster manufacturers, bankrupt. You basically sit in a pod off to the side of the train that rotates in whatever direction it wants, flipping you upside down 11 times. This is one of the 3 of these types of coaster in the world, and it's located right here at Fuji-Q Highland, the insane coaster park overlooking an active volcano. This park is wild. We spent a day here when traveling between Osaka and Tokyo on a bus, and from the moment you arrive, you are instantly treated to breathtaking views of Mount Fuji. I honestly didn't think we'd get as great of a view of the volcano as we did. Not only can you see it whilst walking around the park, but pretty much all of the coasters are facing it as well. So when you're not holding on for dear life, you can savor the incredible scenery. Speaking of holding on for dear life, Fuji-Q is home to 4 heart-pounding roller coasters. It used to have 5, but sadly one was being knocked down during our visit. Whilst 4 may not seem like a lot, trust me when I say that all of these are record-breaking monsters. Fujiyama, also known as the King of Coasters, towers over the park. And when it first opened back in 1996, it was the tallest roller coaster in the world. Now, today, that is no longer the case, but this is still a beast of a ride. After climbing a massive 24-story tall lift hill that feels like it goes on for an eternity, prepare to soar into the coaster's terrifying first drop, which will have you sucked into your seat, barely able to move. This coaster is relentlessly fun and deserving of its regal title. Just across from Fujiyama is officially the world's steepest roller coaster, with a towering drop at 121 degrees. Takabisha mostly has you gliding through its 7 inversions, but I'm not lying when I say that the drop felt like I was being thrown out of my seat. I was very grateful for the strong harnesses holding me back. Now, Fuji-Q is more than just coasters. You've also got some classic rides such as a Skyflyer, Drop Tower, a pendulum swing themed to pizza, and a surprisingly expansive Thomas the Tank Engine kids area. More on that later.
But before we get back to that, you smell great, thanks to Seibert. This month I was sent the Nosferatu scent, which thankfully doesn't smell like a 300-year-old vampire, but does have notes of white lilac, petrichor rain, downspouts, and ambergris. Now, we don't have smell-o-vision, but you're just gonna have to trust me it smells good. From freshly popped popcorn to soaring over citrus groves to the adventurous allure of Pirates of the Caribbean water, theme parks are packed with signature smells. And with over 900 different fragrances available from a wide range of popular brands, you're sure to find your own signature scent with Seibert. Best of all, the ability to change your fragrance every single month makes it easy to find your perfect scent. And as you can tell, these atomizers are small. They can perfectly fit in any bag or even just in your pocket. So scan the QR code or use the code REVIEW55 to get 55% off your first month at Seibert. You can get your first fragrance for just $8 and the next month will be only $16.95. That's code REVIEW55 for 55% off at Scentbird.
But let's be real, the coasters are definitely the reason to visit. Zocon is the park's newest coaster that launches you at high speeds through twists and turns on these high-tech motorbikes. It's a very impressive coaster and insanely fun, but at times it honestly felt like there should have been a bit more going on. It has sections where you stop, roll backwards and launch forwards on a different track, but there are very few effects or story elements where it felt like there should have been some. Now, if we visited a few years earlier, we could have experienced what many regard as one of the most violent coasters ever constructed. The Dumper was a record-breaking launch coaster that absolutely hurled you to over 100 miles per hour in under 2 seconds. Many people said it felt like being punched in the gut or being hit by a truck. Sadly, it had closed a few years ago and was actively being pulled apart and demolished during our visit. Not only does Fuji-Q Highland have record-breaking roller coasters, but it also has record-breaking experiences, with one being the world's longest scare maze. At almost an hour long, the fittingly named Super Scary Labyrinth of Fear is just over half a mile of walking. We sadly couldn't film inside, but trust us when we say that this experience is a masterclass in building suspense. After watching a short little pre-show where they take a photo guaranteed to make you look very attractive, you start your 900-meter long trek. At first we thought maybe something was wrong, because honestly, not a whole lot happened. You hear some creaking or saw some subtle movement of props, but all of this is designed to let your guard down, right in time to be attacked and scared from all sides by performers, animatronics, and terrifying room designs. At one point, we, 2 grown 30-year-old men, were running and screaming down a corridor, being chased by multiple zombies, nurses, and whatever else was screaming at us that we didn't have time or the nerves to look back at. What is even worse is that for the entire experience, you're completely by yourself. This isn't big conga line scares like at most scare events in the United States. It was just the 2 of us alone in this experience. We didn't see a single other guest inside, but we did hear their screams from behind us, which was rather amusing. Now the catch is that unfortunately, this isn't included with your ticket. At a 4,000 yen upcharge for a group of 1 to 4, this isn't the cheapest offering, but we highly recommend it to those looking for a scare. If you're looking for a heart-pounding experience without the scares, the park also contains one of the most unique experiences we have ever done: Despair Fortress Impossible Games. Clearly, shall we say, inspired by Squid Game, just without any of the violence, this experience mixes physical challenges, mental puzzles, and deceptively simple games, where the only goal is to pass all 7 stages. But so far, not a single person has managed to complete them all, even with over 400,000 people taking the challenge. And the fact that you can't film in here means the challenges scattered across the multi-story facility are a surprise to everyone. This experience is provided in either Japanese or English, and while unfortunately we didn't escape, we were in the top 15% of players of all time, so we'll take that home as a small win. And if you want to congratulate us on our small win, liking this video and subscribing to the channel would be great. And if you want to support what we do even further, be sure to check out our Patreon for exclusive content at patreon.com/reviewtime. Now look, Compared to everything else in the park we've talked about so far, Thomas's treasure hunt adventure is rather tame. But we can't not mention this incredibly unique and fun little dark ride. It may be aimed at kids, but we couldn't help but having a great time using our little onboard torches to search for treasure while exploring Sodor Island with Thomas and his friends, lovingly replicated in large-scale set pieces and animatronics. This is the main attraction in a relatively impressive Thomas land that, if you have kids, you could probably spend almost an entire day in. Fuji-Q is an amazing thrill park, but there are a few important things you need to be aware of if you want to visit. For most tourists, it's pretty out of the way. It's about an hour-and-a-half drive out of Tokyo. But we ended up getting a bus and park ticket combo that included transportation from Tokyo Station early in the morning on a bus that took around 2 hours to get to the park. After we arrived, we did have some problems redeeming our park ticket, but managed to sort it out after some Google Translate phone tag at guest relations. English isn't as accessible here as some of the bigger parks, but it's not really an issue, as you can easily get around, order food, and pretty much do whatever you need to do in a theme park. And in a pickle, Google Translate or pointing at menu items seemed to work every time. Long lines were unfortunately a problem when we visited. Honestly, it was a weekday and most of the park looked pretty dead, with very few people walking around. But for some reason, most of the coasters had wait times over an hour long. I think this has to do with the fact you're not allowed to bring anything on to most of the rides. I've gone through less serious security when boarding a plane. They have lockers to put your stuff in, you'll then need to go through metal detectors, and then there will be a full safety briefing on what not to do when riding. Dom even had to take off his earring every time we rode a coaster. If anything, this felt more like theatre to make the rides seem more intense than they actually were. Don't get me wrong, they were intense, but being forced to do heads, shoulders, knees, and toes to ensure you're healthy enough to ride a coaster did seem a tad excessive. Some rides were also only open for a couple of hours a day, which made for difficulty when trying to figure out what to ride and when. There was a ride we wanted to do, but we missed out on it unfortunately, as we didn't realize it was only open for 2 hours a day. Also, be aware that Mount Fuji is notorious for being difficult to see, as it's often covered or surrounded by clouds. As we approached the park via bus at the start of our day, we had a beautiful view overlooking Fuji, and just a few hours later, it was completely covered by clouds and you wouldn't even know it was there. They recently built a tower in the middle of the Fujiyama layout that allows you to get a great view of Mount Fuji and even slip down a 55-meter slide back down to the ground. Unfortunately, when we visited, the tower was closed for the entire day due to wind. Frustratingly, the only way to know if the tower was closed was to walk around 20 minutes outside the park through a strangely detailed French village. A walk we did 3 times across our day, and we still never got to step foot on the tower. So, is Fuji-Q Highland worth visiting? If you're into huge thrill coasters, then absolutely, book your ticket today. Not only will it leave you with memories that last a lifetime, but also aches and pains that will last a few days after your visit from being thrown around like a rag doll. On top of that, the park is pretty cheap, at around $40 per person. But if someone in your group or family isn't big on coasters, there is still enough for them to do, including the impressive views of Mount Fuji. And the park even includes free entry for those who don't want to ride any rides, so they won't have to pay anything. If big coasters aren't your thing, then probably give Fuji-Q Highland a pass. as it is out of the way from most tourist hotspots. You do realistically need an entire day here if you're traveling from somewhere like Tokyo, so you'd probably be better off going to one of Tokyo's closer theme parks, like Joypolis, Senryo Puroland, or Disney. But let us know, would you visit Fuji-Q Highland? And don't forget to check out Scentbird and use our code REVIEW55 for 55% off. For Review Time, I'm Luke. Thanks for watching.